So Steve Lichman, that's where the
Yes.
podcast is going to start, is right there, is when I say, so Steve Lichman. So
Steve Lichman.
So the other day, you just randomly sent me, out of nowhere, no context, you sent me the first chapter of a webcomic called Steve Lichman. It was actually very polite of you. You
Yes.
sent me the first chapter instead of like the home page or something. I didn't even have to push like the first button. So very generous.
That's just where it takes you.
I was
I didn't even mean to be polite, but I'm glad I was.
Yeah, thank you. I immediately was surprised at like the art. The art is like
Yeah,
kind of insane.
so good.
It's like very
So
good. And clearly a very, very talented artist with a lot of
Yeah,
like intimate understanding of anatomy and stuff, like they're very, very good.
yeah.
And it's about just some like freaking video game bosses and enemies in a dungeon just hanging out. Just like some RPG
Yes.
monsters having
It's so good.
having just ordinary life problems. And
Yeah, that's the weird thing is like it starts out pretty lighthearted and pretty chill, and then it just all of a sudden takes a hard turn into real life problemsville.
into like drugs and sex and
Yeah,
relationships.
it comes out of nowhere in like chapter 3.
So yeah, so I love webcomics. I love reading webcomics,
Yeah.
and I like binging webcomics. Actually, oh shoot, okay, I can't remember what it's called. It's gonna take me. I was gonna say it's gonna take me the whole episode to find it, but there's a webcomic that I bet you'd like. But actually, it won't be that hard for me to find. I bet, because I just have to Google webcomic with wood carving panels. What is? Nope. Okay, that didn't work. Okay, so I'll have to do a bit more searching than that.
Yeah.
What is this webcomic called? It's gonna drive me crazy. There's a webcomic. It's not a webcomic. It's a comic strip. The distinction in that it's not like. I guess the distinction isn't that close, because I guess you could. Steve Lichman has some like comic strip traits in that it's kind of just like serial, and there's a little bit of continuity, but it's mostly just like, oh, let's watch these characters with their kooky lives. But this webcomic that I
Yeah.
can't remember the name of is very much just like a comic strip, but all of the images are taken from like 1800s diagrams and and drawings and stuff, and like from like magazines and stuff. So it looks like an old-timey magazine or whatever. And
That's kind of awesome.
but like, and then the topics are, the stuff is about freaking hysterical random stuff that's, oh my gosh, what's it called? It's gonna drive me crazy. Okay, stop the recording, because I'm just gonna like, oh freaking, what's it called?
No, we got to keep this in.
What's it called? The webcomic with
Is it called My
1800s
Teenage?
webcomic with 1800s art.
My Teenage 1800s Drama?
No, it's not. So I like to just like binge webcomics. And so this is a comic strip with like 1,000 or 2,000 strips that I read over the course of like a couple weeks.
Good. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, please. Comic, what's it called? Not Lackadaisy.
Homestuck?
It's not Homestuck.
Homestuck 2.
Homestuck 2 exists. Did you know that that's a real thing? You sounded like
Oh,
you were making a
really?
joke, but Homestuck 2 is a real thing.
Yeah, no, I had no idea. I just thought it
It's-
would be dumb if
It's
something called
it's
Homestuck
kind
2.
of dumb, and people really, really didn't like it.
Homestuck 2.
Yeah. Homestuck 2. So there was Homestuck, and Homestuck finished, and that was its own contained thing. And then Andrew Hussey, with the help of some other writers, made the Homestuck epilogues, which is like written fiction. It's not a comic. It's freaking like a short novella.
Yeah.
And a lot of Homestuck deals with the themes, at least towards the end. Homestuck deals with the themes of like what it means for something to be canon, like canonicity, and like I
Yeah.
guess it's like freaking Spider-Man across the Spiderverse, where it's like canon events. But like not. Um, it's a good freaking
Is that
movie.
what that sound is from?
Yeah, the
Spider-Verse?
that's like the
Oh,
Spider-Man 2099 villain theme when
I had no
when
idea.
he becomes like
I
the
just thought it was
twist
a random
villain.
meme sound.
Yeah, that's isn't that awesome? I
Yeah.
saw before I went and saw Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I was seeing like memes based off of it without even realizing it. And then I went and saw it and I was like, "Oh man, I've been seeing stuff on TikTok about this and I didn't even realize like the canon event memes." Um
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, oh, shoot.
yeah, canon
So
events
the
is
canon event thing, that's all.
that's all
I
Spider-Man.
had no idea. I had zero clues.
You should go see Across the Spider-Verse, dude. It's very good. But part of the story is the fact because like there's the multiverse of Spider-Mans and there's like certain canon events that happen in like
Yeah.
every Spider-Man's life that like have to happen. And so if you prevent them, you cause problems and you're like breaking the canon kind of thing. So that's
So,
why
because like then there won't be an actual Spider-Man or what?
it's just for some reason that's just like how it works for some reason because it's like it's they're like tropes in the live action Spider-Man movies too, where like there's Uncle Ben dying, like an uncle who's close to
Yeah.
Spider-Man has to die because like the Spider-Man learns important lessons from that. And then there's also like specifically like yeah, so it's like you lose a family member and then like a police captain will die trying to help Spider-Man or whatever. And so
Oh, that's the thing.
I guess yeah, I can't think of that happening in the movies, but they just use that like in like the freaking Tobey Maguire movies or anything like that. But anyway, Uncle Ben is
Yeah.
like the obvious one, right? And because it's like, oh, that's Spider-Man needs that to like grow and really become Spider-Man. But then like when
Right.
they travel to multiverses and like prevent they like the way you learn about it is they prevent a canon event and then the whole universe just like collapses and like the world
Well,
ends. So
dang. Okay. That's kind of intense.
yeah.
It's high stakes.
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is a phenomenal movie and you should really see it. It's very good. I don't think you even really need to see Into the Spider-Verse. Into the Spider-Verse was just okay. I guess
Really?
it gives you the origin story for Miles Morales and how he became Spider-Man. So I guess it is important.
Miles
But
Morals.
when Miles Morales meets Kilometer Immorales, it's like oh no. Um,
That's hysterical.
anyway, so Homestuck 2.
Uh-huh.
So Homestuck itself deals a lot with themes of like canonicity and stuff because like
Yeah.
there's like different timelines in the Homestuck story and basic like there is like the one alpha timeline or whatever and all other there's like infinite versions of all the characters basically, right? And
Uh-huh.
but anything that deviates from the alpha timeline is like doomed. All other timelines are doomed and like everyone will die and everything will fail, which is like kind of dark, but so like the characters need to stay on the alpha timeline and
Yeah.
like if they
Because otherwise everybody will die.
yeah, if they do things incorrectly, basically, like if they deviate too far, then it's like cool, you're just like doomed forever. It's kind of weird.
What the freak?
Yeah, it's just you're just in a doomed timeline
That's
now.
super dark.
So then like there's at least one character who can time travel and so he
Yeah.
learns the hard way that like basically every time he time travels like that version of him dies.
What?
It's freaking awesome. It's actually really interesting. And like everything has to like there like can't be paradoxes, everything has to be cleaned up and if like something shouldn't have happened then like something will happen and he will die. And so eventually he just like doesn't time travel anymore. And there's a really funny moment where he's like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure time travel is like karate, where you just you learn it so you don't have to use it."
That makes no sense.
And then he's like, which is obviously wrong because like if you learned karate, you'd be doing like sweet crane kicks
Yeah.
like all down the street. Dave Strider is a wonderful character. So anyway, towards the end of the story, the main character gains the ability to change to like alter canon. And so it's
Yeah.
it's a big deal because he goes back and he changes things and like he prevents the death of a main character and like does make some slight changes to the timeline, right? And it stays the alpha timeline. And
Yeah.
that's and in the end that's like what they needed to do to beat the big bad and win. And so the the Homestuck epilogues are really interesting and weird because like Homestuck ends and it's a happy ending where like all the
Yeah.
characters who are still alive are happy and they won. Like the end of Homestuck is basically a creation story where like they successfully created their own world and now they just get to live on it happy forever, right?
Yeah.
And then it just kind of ends there with like, okay, here's all the characters and they're all happy. And the epilogues keep going like right after the end of Homestuck, and they're not considered like canon, and
Uh-huh.
it's sad because it shows the characters continuing to live in this like idyllic world that they've created, and it's
Yeah.
been 5-10 years or whatever, and like things aren't idyllic anymore. Like they have all these issues and bad things happen, and it's just like it's kind of
Yeah.
interesting because it's like the epilogues are very interesting because it's like, man, yeah, you probably shouldn't have made this. Like Homestuck was good and it was over and it was done, and you kept going, and now all the characters are messed up again and are miserable and like
Oh,
it's
even though that's like totally like what would actually happen.
yeah, and I think it's kind of the point of the epilogues.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
But also sad.
Yeah, but it's also like, yeah, it's after you read it, you're like, well, great.
Guess I couldn't leave this on
Yeah,
a happy note.
it's like you really should have just like left these characters alone. Like they were done. They had done enough, because in order to introduce more conflict and to have a story, like their relationships have to get screwed up and stuff.
Right.
You see like two characters finally at the end of Homestuck like end up together and they're really cute and it's like, oh, my ship survived. And then it's like, okay, it's been a couple years and now they're having all these problems kind of thing, right? The worst casualty is freaking Jane. Jane Crockett becomes like she becomes like the antagonist. She's super evil and horrible. And she's like such a sweet character and she's like so nice and sweet, and she kind of has some issues, but she's like fine. She was fine, and then they just went and made her so terrible and awful, and it's really sad. Anyway, it's called the
Well, maybe that's just a lesson to you, Jason.
I think it kind of is that. It's like a lesson to the fans where it's like, no, you don't want more Homestuck. Like, how dare you think that you want more Homestuck? This is your punishment.
Leave me alone.
It's interesting. It's called the Homestuck epilogues because there's two of them. It follows like
Yeah.
two concurrent timelines, and it doesn't like neither of them are like truly canon. There's no like alpha timeline anymore, but it's just like two different kinds of screwed up that all the characters get.
Yeah.
Like in one of the timelines, one of the main characters like commits suicide. It's like super sad.
What the?
It's
What?
really sad.
That's dark.
Yeah, it's super dark and sad. Anyway, Homestuck 2, as if the epilogues weren't enough, Homestuck 2 is a continuation
Yeah.
of the epilogues. And so Homestuck 2 was interesting because it was like Homestuck was like basically all one guy. It was Andrew Hussey, and he got some help with like the music and some of the art and stuff, but like all the writing was just him.
Yeah.
And then the epilogues in Homestuck 2 was much more collaborative, and I think he was more just like overseeing it, but there were like other artists involved, other writers. And it was also
Yeah.
Homestuck 2 specifically was Homestuck 2 was back to being a webcomic, and it
Wait, what
was
was I thought that was, what was Homestuck 1?
Homestuck 1 was a webcomic, but the epilogues were just like fiction. They were just like writing. They were just like short
Oh.
fiction, right?
Oh, okay.
And then you get back to Homestuck 2 and it's a comic again. And they were like trying to fund it through Patreon, and it was like really not doing well and people really didn't like it. So it just went on like
Yeah.
permanent infinite hiatus. Just like right in the middle of the story. It just never updated
Well,
ever
freak.
again.
Are you sad or glad?
I mean, if there was more Homestuck, I would always consume more Homestuck, but it is kind of nice to be
Yeah.
able to like reach the end and be like, okay, there's no more
It's over.
Homestuck.
It's not like One Piece where it's just infinitely serialized until the end of time.
Yeah. Yeah. But I definitely in this theoretical hypothetical when the day finally comes that I make my like 12-hour video essay about all of Homestuck, I
Which
intend
is coming out tomorrow, right?
yeah, next week. So I intend
Oh,
to
okay.
I intend to cover the epilogues in Homestuck 2 as well.
And why they're terrible.
Yeah, and there's some things about them that I think are really interesting, but it's
Yeah.
also just like I don't know, didn't really need to exist.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I feel that.
Anyway, Steve Lichman, I think we're finally out of the like topic stack where I was like diversion, diversion, diversion.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was binging Steve Lichman today, and then I stopped because I was like, okay, this is
Yes.
like just about drugs and sex. And I was like, I don't know if I need to keep
That's
reading
kind
this.
of what it turns into.
It's also
It's
not
just
really
this
about
weird,
Steve anymore
dark
because
story.
Steve Lichman
Yeah.
is like the best character, but it's like not really about him. It's about like his super abusive vampire friend and like the like
Yeah.
the druggy freaking like beholder and
And his
and
Medusa
his
friend.
like bad trips like
Yeah. So how far did you get?
I read like 20, 21, 25 chapters. So almost all of volume 1 because I think volume 1's like 29 or 30 chapters.
Yeah, okay. Okay. There are some twists in there. But it doesn't make the story any more happy or lighthearted. It's still just Sadville.
I keep reading because I was like, okay, let me just like get to the funny stuff again, and it's just like, this is just like gross realism.
Yeah.
Like,
I know, because like I read the whole thing
Uh-huh.
like the day I sent it to you because I was like, oh, it's been a while, let me read this, and I was reading, I was like, oh, this like stops being funny and just gets sad, and it doesn't get funny again. There's like maybe a joke every chapter, and that's it.
yeah, and it's like, okay, cool. We're gonna take these like caricatures of characters where like
Yeah.
we're gonna take all these one-dimensional characters where all the characters have like a single character trait. Like Dracula is just super full of himself, and the Mind
Yeah.
Flayer is just like kind of
And also a rapist.
kind of
I think we
rude.
should throw that in.
Yeah, and also he's a rapist. Freaking Dracula, millennia old, dating like a 17-year-old.
Hey, she turned 18.
But then like, yeah, they kind of get like more depth to them, and it's just like sad.
Well, it's sad because there's like just their life is sad. There's like
then the whole-
nothing nothing good.
And then the whole time, Steve the Lich is just like so like cheerful and trying to like keep his friends together and like trying
Yeah.
to keep them from like yelling at each other. And he's just like so sad and pitiful. Like,
Which like is kind of funny in its own right.
yeah, that's
But
like
ends up just being sad after like you see it for the
that's
fifth
like what the
time.
humor is though. It's like the style of
Yeah.
humor of this comic is just like
Look at how
you
sad these
chuckling at
people
like
are.
how awful it is.
Yeah.
How like
Yeah.
painful, like how awkward and painful and embarrassed, like secondhand embarrassment, like
Yeah, no,
that
for
kind
real.
of, it's like that kind of humor. But the art's incredible.
It's very good. Yeah, probably my favorite chapter is the first one where
First
Steve
one is so
Lichman.
funny.
Kids these days are having too much sex.
He's like, because Steve the Lich has like been living for millennia, and he's just like, I'm
"Please
just kind of
end
done.
me."
I just like want to die, and it's like he's just sitting in his like dungeon waiting for an adventurer to come kill him.
Yeah.
And this barbarian dude comes in, and Steve is like, oh yes, great, I like someone who can kill me.
Stab me through.
And then he
please.
freaking stabs him, and nothing happens. And he's like, "Wait, you said you were pure of heart? Have you lain with the fairer sex?" And the barbarian's like,
Yeah.
"Well, yeah." And he's like, "No, dang it, you're not pure of heart. You're not a virgin." Kids these days have too much sex. It's
Oh
so
my goodness.
funny.
That joke has stayed with me ever since I first read it. It's so good. It's so good. If anybody who's listening to this, if there's anybody listening to this at all, you should check out at least the first chapter of Steve Lichman.
Yeah, you just gotta read the first couple pages. It's so funny.
It's so good.
And then it gets really sad, but at first it's
Yeah, then it
really
just gets
funny.
sad. And it just keeps getting sadder and sadder as you go. That's not a joke. They introduce a whole slew of abusive characters.
That are just all so
It's just-
messed up and sad. Yeah.
Yes, pretty much. And Dracula turns out to be the good guy.
What? Oh no.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
maybe I will have to keep reading because like
But he's a really sad good guy.
he is such an awful person. He like one of the last chapters I read was he's like, okay, you know what? Like, yeah, I've been a jerk to my friends, and like I've been like doing bad things. I want to like make things right. And so he gets all of his friends together, and he's just like, I want to apologize.
Apology.
And his apology isn't an apology at all. It's just him talking about how cool he is. And then he's like, okay, everybody
pretty
like
funny, too.
everybody tell me like what I can do to improve myself. And it's just like he's just so conceited. It's horrible.
Oh, it's so funny though. That apology is one of the best parts of that comic too. Forgot about
Oh
that.
my gosh.
It's so good. But yeah, Steve
Anyway.
Lichman. Pretty solid first few chapters. If you like laughing at people who are really sad, then you'll probably enjoy it.
When you're just like, oh gosh, no, oh gosh, no.
It's like, please, why? Why would you do this to me?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, lots of
Anyways, I'm glad you were able to derive at least some enjoyment from that.
yeah. It's been a bit since we've recorded. What else has been going on, dude?
You've been in like Idaho and other places, right?
Yeah, I've been in a couple of states, and
Just kind of like
Just
perusing the
hopping
seven
around.
wonders of the world.
yeah, my wife's family travels a lot, and so I got to just hitch a ride and go all over. It was fun.
Yeah.
And here's something to talk about actually. On the way on the airplane, because like I never read books anymore except when I'm traveling or like on vacation.
Yeah.
And then I'm like able to read, and it's great. I read maybe my new favorite book of all time. It's called Children of Time. And
Is that by Brandon Sanderson? I feel like I've heard of that one.
no, that's like Wheel of Time,
Oh, okay.
the like Robert
Insert other
Jordan series that
fantasy.
Brandon Sanderson completed after Robert Jordan's death. So Children of Time,
Yeah.
I had heard, I'd heard about it, and I'd heard that it was good, and I knew like the premise, and so I'd been wanting to read it for like a year, and then finally I got it from the library, and I was like, let's freaking go, let's go on vacation and go read it, and holy frick, it's incredible. So it's a sci-fi novel, and I wish we'd recorded like a month ago when it was fresher on my mind, but I can still tell you about how freaking good this book is. So, it takes place in the far future. Humanity has expanded all over like, the solar system and maybe beyond. So there's like interstellar travel and all that. There is this scientist, don't even remember her name, but she she's leading this project to basically ascend. They're trying to like give sentience to monkeys is what they're trying to do. So they like terraformed this perfect planet, and they're going
This never goes well.
well, of course not, but they're going to like they like made it very Earth-like. It has Earth-like animals on it, right? And it has these monkeys, and they made like this virus that that like accelerates evolution. Basically, it like accelerates intelligence. It like forces social bonds and like cooperation and community with other people, with other animals that have the virus, right? So that it will like jumpstart them into creating it's the Pokérus. So it'll jumpstart these monkeys into evolving and becoming like sentient. And I don't even remember what their like logic and why this is a good idea, but I think it was just like, oh, humanity is like done basically all it can, and now they want to like share the galaxy with something else because there's like no alien life. Anyway.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, so it's like it is the way that they put it, it's like, okay, yeah, this isn't just inherently a terrible idea. but it is
there was some rhyme to the reason.
Yeah, but there is this like anti-movement back on Earth of people who like think that this is wrong and hate it, right? That like they're playing God, right? So what happens is the scientist lady who's been leading this whole project, they're getting ready to like drop the monkeys onto the planet and like give them the virus and all that. And then they're just gonna like wait. They should only have to wait. You know, maybe they also have like cryostasis and stuff, so they won't have to wait very long.
Yeah.
This like anti-group are also like terrorists ish, so they like sabotage it. Everything goes wrong, and so the monkeys they drop them. They like drop the monkeys in their drop pod or whatever, and they like burn in orbit, so all the monkeys are dead. And
that's sad.
But the virus still gets to the planet, and then the lady, they have like this observation satellite that's supposed to be just like orbiting the planet. She gets to it, and she goes into like cryo sleep. So so this lady is like totally alone, right? And the ship, like all the other scientists, like everybody else, like is dead. Like the ship like got destroyed. And then later you learn that like actually this like conflict between the people for and against this idea escalated into like full civil war, and actually like basically all of humanity is dead. So she's like kind of the last one. And she just goes into cryo sleep in this satellite, and she's like, okay, yeah, like the satellite broadcasts down to the planet some radio frequency that it's like math problems. And so she goes into cryo sleep until the correct answers to the math problems are received. Until like the monkeys are smart enough, right, to be able to communicate with her. And so the monkeys are all dead though. So what gets infected instead with the virus is spiders. And so
I hate that.
No, but it's so freaking cool. So most of the book is following the evolution of the spiders as they first go from like just individual hunters to like pack hunters. They start working together. And then the next chapter is however many generations later, and they like can communicate with each other, and they don't talk, they communicate by like with like their feet. They like step in a certain way, and they like wiggle their like mandibles or whatever, you know? So it's like kind of like sign language or something. And they then they like form tribes, and then they like start discovering technology and stuff, you know? It's incredible. It's like some of the most amazing world building I've ever read in my whole life. of like,
Huh.
let's think of what a society, how would technology develop? How would society be developed with another species?
If everybody were spiders.
Yeah, so like society is entirely matriarchal because the females are bigger and stronger, and occasionally like
Yeah.
will like kill the males, like after like mating and stuff. Like they still have those instincts, and so
Yeah.
like all of society is based around like these houses that are headed by a female and like her like females with her, and then they have like subservient males, right? And they live
Yeah.
in all of their technology, and all their structures are made of webs, and they develop like long distance communication just with like web, because they speak through like these steps, these like vibrations. They can like communicate.
Yeah.
They can like string up silk and communicate long different distances. And then simultaneously, as you're reading about these spiders, they eventually develop into like the space age, but everything is like different and unique with like their own, with like based on their physiology and based on their technology and stuff. It's freaking incredible. It's really
Yeah.
cool. Like some of the coolest world building I've ever read. The other half of the story, that's like one half, is like every time you have a chapter on the spiders, it's them facing some new problem, you know, and in the next like technological age.
Yeah.
The other side of the story is back on Earth, humanity, because of like everybody like this conflict turned into like a full on nuclear war. Like almost everybody died, and like there was a nuclear winter, and so thousands of years have passed, and the survivors, the people who survived, the Earth is like basically super toxic and poisoned now, so everybody is using like this quote unquote ancient technology left by the ancients to like get back into space and try to find somewhere else to live, the survivors of humanity.
Yeah.
And so then you have these people who view the people that you started the story with are now considered the ancients, and like they can't read their language anymore, and they don't really understand their technology anymore. And they're on this
What a bunch of idiots.
they're on this
That was a joke.
they're on this ship trying to find somewhere else to go, somewhere else to live. And
Yeah.
so they have a cargo of like thousands of people in cryostasis, and then they just have like the crew that they need. You have this other super interesting exploration. Sorry, I'm just going off on telling you everything about the story because it's really complicated.
No,
but
you're fine.
It's like some of the craziest ideas I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So the other side of the story is like this one scientist who is on this ship, one of these survivors. So he's like thousands of years separated from the gal who's like was in the satellite and was running the monkey now spider experiment.
Yeah.
And he is woken up from cryostasis, and then they do something on this ship, and then he like goes back to sleep, and then he wakes up. So basically each chapter for him is him like waking up and then going back to sleep and waking up. And every time he wakes up, life on the ship is like totally different because they're making like a millennia long travel, and so things are happening when he's asleep, and he wakes up and like generations have passed, like he's so disconnected from time. Like sometimes people are there's this one part where like this the captain of the ship basically puts everybody to sleep, and then he wakes up some of the people, and then he doesn't put them back to sleep, he just like has them live out their whole entire lives and like have children, and they devolve into like tribes on this spaceship. What? To the point that like they don't really remember how to run the spaceship anymore because they've just been like so much has been lost. And so the main character scientist is woken up, and like everything is so different. It's really, really crazy. You should read it. I don't know if I've sold you at all in ranting for 15 straight minutes, but it was one of the most incredible books I've ever read. Very good sci-fi novel.
No, yeah, it sounds super interesting. I mostly followed, I think.
And the other thing that's really cool
there's a lot of moving parts in there.
And there's a lot of people very like time. It's called Children of Time because like the whole thing is just so. It's just playing with the idea of time, and like
Yeah.
being disconnected from time and like time things happening not in the right speed. And the whole novel, another thing that's really, really good and really amazing about the novel is the ship the ship full of like the remnants of humanity, they go to the spider planet because they find it and they're like, oh wow, we found this like idyllic Earth. And the lady on the satellite, this lady on the satellite who's been in like cryostasis for so long, she like goes insane basically because she's just like alone for thousands of years. And
she's asleep, right?
She uploads her personality into like the computer or something. And then like she just it's like the boundary between like herself and the computer just like totally is lost, and she's just like kind of insane, which is also really interesting because it's like that's another really interesting idea. Is like this character this person who's been alive for thousands and thousands of years can't relate to normal humans anymore, like barely even thinks of them as human. Because she's just been alive for so long. And so she's
like the skin lady from Doctor Who.
I hate that lady.
Yeah. Moisturize me, please. Moisturize me.
That's like one of the 3 episodes of Doctor Who I've ever seen, and I've seen that one.
Same.
But even though she's just on like this little satellite, she's able to like damage. She stops the ship from approaching and like tells them to leave and like almost kills them. And like they don't understand her technology because it's so old but so advanced, and so they have to leave. They leave, and the whole book, that like they're gonna come back. They have to come back. Like that's the only planet that they can survive on, that like humanity can survive on, is this idyllic spider planet. And so it's amazing because while you're reading over like generation after generation on both sides, everything is building towards this like eventual conflict. And it's this inevitable conflict that's going to happen between the spiders and the humans. And it's really, really well written. It's really well built up to, and it's super freaking cool.
But can't they just get along?
I'm not going to spoil it because the ending's really cool. But the Spider Society is so cool. Every time I'd read a chapter about the people on the spaceship, I'm like, please, can we just get back to the spiders? Because like, they don't develop like computers. They're able to manipulate like pheromones to manipulate ants and like ant nests. And so they turn like ants basically into computers where they're just like able to program the ant nest to do calculations or to produce things. It's so cool. Their technology is so fascinating. Anyway, you should read it.
Yes. I will read about the spider people.
Children of Time. Yeah. It'll only take you a little bit longer to read it than it took you to listen to me talk about it, I bet.
So it's not a very long book.
No, it is long. I'm just being facetious.
Yeah.
How long I just talked about it.
Yeah. Because you're a long boy.
Yeah. I'm like out of breath.
Speaking of something you said there, like the technology is so ancient, but it's like so advanced. That's always been like Star Wars technology for me. Like it looks so old and like outdated, but also like super advanced. Am I crazy? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, part of that might just be because it's like from the 70s. But yeah,
probably. But it still feels like really old advanced technology.
I think that's kind of an interesting aesthetic where it's like, okay, yeah, their technology can do so much more than ours can, but like when you look at their computers or like Star Trek, you look at their computers and they like look really crappy and simplistic.
Yeah. It's like my cell phone could do more than that probably, but I'm still here on Earth.
Yeah, or like they have their phasers, their guns or whatever, and they just have like a big old dial on it. It's like we're gonna change the setting, and it's
Yeah.
not like complicated. It's just like,
Yeah, I guess if we were to make a phaser nowadays, it'd have like an LED touchscreen with
yeah.
5 different color palettes.
I think that makes me think of like, if you know the like, what's it called? Like it might have been called like the futurism movement or something in like the 50s, you know, when they were like, when you would see like drawings of flying cars, like what they, like the Jetsons, you know, like what they thought the future could be like. It's really interesting that like
Oh yeah, no, that
50s,
stuff is fascinating.
60s idea of the future, and everything is like really blocky and simplistic.
Yeah, and like not smooth.
Yeah.
Although I guess we're kind of trending that direction. Like, have you seen the Cybertruck?
The Cybertruck is
Thing's blocky
oh
as
my
heck.
gosh. I saw a freaking, it was like a tweet or something where there was like the like one of the like the presentation on stage, like with the Cybertruck showing it off, and they like throw a chair into the window, right? And like nothing. Like this glass is just like impenetrable.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, that's really impressive. And then there was like this tweet or something that was like, hey, you know, glass on cars is supposed to be breakable. Like, how do you think a firefighter is going to get you out when your Cybertruck is like on fire? And I'm like, oh, that's a really good point.
Of a good point.
That is kind of, I don't know if I want my car to be that indestructible.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no. I still remember the first time they tried to show that feature off.
And they
like,
actually broke it.
Yeah, the window just kind of like, it didn't like shatter, but it just kind of broke, and Elon Musk is standing up there like, well, this is kind of awkward. Don't know what to do now with this broken truck up on my stage. I think my grandpa actually has one on order for
A Cybertruck?
A Cybertruck.
How long?
He's waiting for him to come out.
How far out are
He's
they?
got it pre-ordered.
Because haven't they been
I have no
open for
idea.
pre-orders for probably like 5 years?
So long. They've been open for pre-orders for so long.
Speaking of Elon
And
Musk,
he is not a happy camper. He's like, man, I want my Cybertruck, dang it.
I feel like my, as well as a lot of people, it seems, my opinion of Elon Musk has deteriorated in the last, like, I don't know, year or so, but far more quickly in like the last week, where like he
what happened
Elon
in the last week?
So Elon bought Twitter a while ago, and people got mad,
Right.
and a lot of weird things were happening with Twitter, like the whole freaking the verified fiasco.
Yeah. A lot of strange decisions going on.
Yeah, where like Nintendo of Brazil official account or whatever is like, yes, we can confirm that Mario and Luigi are gay lovers or whatever. That era of Twitter where anyone could be verified.
I didn't even know about that.
There were a lot of memes coming out last year
man.
when the like $5 to get anything verified was happening, and then a lot of memes of like, oh, look at what this verified account said, Pizza Hut or whatever. Anyway, in the like, it was like a week or two ago. I swear I thought this was fake. I can't believe it's real. But Elon is rebranding Twitter. It is no longer going to be called Twitter. It's going to be
X,
called
right?
X. And it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
I saw that on Reddit, and I couldn't decide if it was legit or not, or if it was just a bunch of people trolling.
Yeah, I still am not totally sure. Like, the logo is the worst thing I've ever seen.
And it's not going to be tweets; it's going to be X's now.
X posts or whatever. Like,
my goodness!
It's so bad. It's horrible.
I feel like Elon Musk is usually like pretty solid when it comes to branding and like making things look cool and that sort of thing. Not so here.
Yeah, it was like SpaceX. Like, yeah, okay, that's a cool name. But now it's like, nah. What if it was just X?
Yeah. Yeah.
I just like Googled Twitter rebranding, and I found a freaking USA Today logo, and there's a quote that Musk said the X design served to embody the imperfections in us all that make us unique. Are you saying you're making it bad on purpose? While in another tweet, he pointed out his personal affinity for the letter.
This dude.
It's like his daughter's name, who is like
feels like a failing artist right now.
The guy's losing it, dude. I feel like
it's so weird because he's so smart, right? Like he's absolutely brilliant, and he usually has a knack for like the Tesla logos and that sort of thing. Like, they look really good. SpaceX logos look really good. Boring Company looks really good. Like it looks interesting and not boring in the slightest. And then there's Twitter. And whatever happened with Twitter was just a dumpster fire for whatever
insane.
reason.
It's unbelievable.
It's
let alone the fact that Twitter is, Twitter's been around for so long that it's so iconic. It's ingrained into the public psyche. The name, the logo. The logo's great, and now it's just the letter X. And I think I saw. I don't know if any of this is real, but I also saw a Reddit post that was like, yeah, it's straight up just like the letter X from like this one font. Like that's it. It's not even like a unique X. It's like just from this some font that you could just download. It's insane. It's unreal.
That's sad. He has more money than that, right? He has more money
he's
than
got
that,
like
right?
$10 to buy it off of like Google Fonts or whatever, It's so weird.
Oh gosh, yeah, I don't know. That whole thing is just a bizarre situation to me. I have no idea what goes on in that man's head. Maybe it's something where it's like once you have a certain amount of money, you just like lose your cool.
Maybe it literally is just like publicity. It's like, okay, I'm gonna do something crazy that people won't believe because it'll make headlines. I don't know.
Which honestly, like that wouldn't necessarily surprise me with him, because he does kind of have a troll personality. This could just be a really big troll.
My main impression of Elon Musk thus far has been like, okay, this guy is big on like pushing the boundaries of technology with stuff like freaking SpaceX just being like, hey, you know what, NASA, y'all haven't done anything for 40 years. Okay, like 20 years. So we're going to do it instead. And we're going to do it to the point that like you use our rockets because the government just doesn't care about space anymore or whatever. That's freaking cool. And he's like, I'm going to go to Mars. And I'm like, okay, Elon, that's a bit of a stretch, but like, let's see. And then he's like, electric cars are like, I'm going to make like super insane luxury vehicles. I'm like, that's pretty cool, dude. They've got like 4 iPads glued together. I'm not sure how safe that is to have that right in a driver's face, but like, okay, you do what you do.
But I guess if it's driving for you, then maybe it's okay.
And then I feel like the only other impression of Elon that I had is that I've seen him on like freaking the Joe Rogan Experience and other like interviews and stuff where he's like talking about like, he's very forward thinking about like AI, and it's like, I spoke to Congress or whatever about like AI legislation because I think it's going to be a real problem. And I'm like, okay, cool. I can like see it. You're like thinking about the future and like, okay, cool. I don't know if the singularity is going to happen, but you go, Elon. And then he's like, what if Twitter? But what if Twitter?
Just like laying in bed at 3 a.m. one night, just like, but Twitter.
But what if I bought Twitter and made it bad?
What if I bought Twitter? Honestly, that maybe that ties into the forward thinking. Like I gotta do what's good for humanity thing. I gotta ruin Twitter.
Twitter's
so
not good for humanity.
It.
We gotta get rid of it. We're not. We can't just delete Twitter. People get upset. We have to make people want me to delete Twitter.
Yes. that might be the big brain play.
Yeah.
I think this is like kind of political, and I don't want to get like super political, but I think part of it is like the right side of politics kind of embraced him a little bit. And so he was just like, I'm going to get Twitter because I always complain about Twitter and like kind of get in with that crowd and like that kind of thing. That I don't really keep up with much of anything anymore just because of school, and I'm also lazy. But that wouldn't surprise me if that was like that fed into it. But I think I prefer the lying in bed at 3 a.m. theory.
I don't use Twitter, so I don't really know. I've heard a lot of people complaining about like the changes to Twitter since Elon took over, and like I'll totally believe that. I'll totally believe that things have gotten worse. I saw the verified fiasco, but like I feel like I don't really know what else is different. I feel like the only other thing that I heard was different is that like he cracked down on. They like changed their policies, I think, about like 18 and up content, like adult content that got cracked down on, and people complained about that because they were like, "Oh, artists' livelihoods," and I'm like, "Frickin' grow up!" Like, why is this your livelihood?
Is this really the hill that you're going to die on? Is this what you want to be known for the rest of your life? You realize that like this is what your children's children are going to see when they think of you.
Yeah, I don't have fond feelings for the porn industry, so...
Oh, same. It is my least favorite of all of the industries.
So maybe Elon actually is a boss. Who knows? I'm not actually paying close enough attention.
Yeah, I honestly, same. I think he's got some pretty nifty ideas sometimes, but I'm also not a multi-billionaire, so I don't know anything about anything.
That's like, okay, cool. I'm gonna make so much money that I'm gonna like buy TikTok or whatever. I'm gonna buy Facebook.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna call it.
It's like your life goal.
I'm gonna call it Q.
No, you can't call it Q.
I just want to see Elon. This is just step one. There's 25 letters to go. 25 more industry titans will fall before Elon is done.
Yeah. Oh goodness. I feel like there's been a lot of companies rebranding to like dumber things lately, though, like Facebook to Meta, Twitter to X. That's the only two examples I can come up with, but it feels like
a lot. If I had a nickel for every time a social media platform rebranded to something objectively inferior, more generic, I'd have 2 nickels.
Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. That's one of my. I love that show, Phineas and Ferb. One of my favorite shows of all time. It makes me so happy.
Phineas and Ferb has some really good writing.
It's so good.
You know Phineas and Ferb is good, and you know that we like Phineas and Ferb because there's only like 7 episodes of this podcast, and this is undeniably at least the second time we've talked about Phineas and Ferb.
It's gotta be.
I know. In like episode
every
2
time
or 3,
we talked about Phineas and Ferb on this podcast.
Dude, that's a stock that's gonna rise. Okay. Come put your money on that square.
The Ferb stock.
The mentions of Phineas and Ferb on Rajtat.
Oh yeah.
It will only go
Cash in your Rajtat coins now, everybody.
Our newly minted NFT.
Rajcoin. Can we actually make a cryptocurrency? Do you want to do that?
Yeah, I'm sure it's not that hard.
You're a computer science guy, right?
Yeah.
You know how.
Yeah, you just like do the blockchain and yeah.
Yeah, easy. It's easy.
If it's too complicated, then instead we'll just trade the access to our Minecraft server.
We'll just print counterfeit US dollars instead.
I'll trade you. If we can't print the NFTs, I'll just give you Neopet collectibles, like Neopet accessories.
Honestly, that works for me just as well.
The value of this
but
is only going to go up. But if we really want to get in on
the printing money scheme, we gotta.
If you want to get into the printing money scheme, you got to get into NFTs like 4 years ago.
Yeah, if you want to make a lot of money, invest in Apple about 30 years ago. Then you'll make it big.
Oh, so I've been working. I just finished my internship at an Air Force base, which is super cool. I got to work with actual industry engineers, and I learned a lot, and it was a super great experience. they had
Yeah.
a big focus on mentoring and like meeting and talking to other like full-time engineers and getting their like perspective and stuff, career advice and stuff. It was cool. And so they had this one little event that the interns went to, that they had all the interns
Yeah.
go to, where it was just like, they called it a mentor mingle. So it's just like go table to table and like talk to these people who've been working for as an engineer for the Air Force for 20 years and talk to them about their career and stuff. And there was this one guy who they all had like filled out a little like about me thing. And this one guy was like, yeah, I've been working for the Air Force for 15 years, whatever, been doing this and this. And then he was like, I'm also a stock owner in Apple. And that was like on his like resume, like freaking about me thing that he was like handing out to the interns. He's like, I've been a stock owner in Apple since like 2008. And we're like, at first I was like, what the frick? And then I was like, oh wait, dang, dude, wow.
That means he's like big money rich.
Yeah, it's like how what the frick? Like, yeah,
Because like Apple was like the first $1 trillion company, wasn't it?
and it was like, I was like, wait, why did you put that there? And then I was like, oh, that was pre-iPhone. How the frick, dude? How did you know?
Yeah, no, honest.
It's like it was honestly really cool. It's like, dang, if I had stock in Apple, I would tell people.
If I had stock in Apple, well, I don't know. I'd probably still be going to college.
The thing about stock though is
Okay.
you have to stop having stock in order to have money. So I don't know
This is
if he
true.
has money.
This is
Maybe he
true.
just has stock. He has imaginary money.
I mean, he has money potential. It's the potential energy of money.
The money is suspended above the ground, and when released, will the potential money
Yes.
energy will be converted into kinetic money energy right into his wallet.
Energy equals money times gravity. That's the
Money
actual,
momentum is mass times velocity squared.
Yes. Also, I apologize if I've been like, if this has been the most awkward episode of Rajtat ever, because I realized before I went to church today, because I'm a church going man. I realized before I
man of
went
the
to church
cloth,
today, like,
if you
oh
will.
shoot, yeah, I wear clothes. I realized like, oh shoot, like this was last night. I was like, I haven't had a conversation with anybody since like Wednesday.
Oh my gosh.
I don't talk to anybody anymore, which is kind of sad. And I meant to call your wife just to be like, hey, I didn't talk to anybody today, which sounds even more sad. But then it was like 9, and I was like, I'm just gonna go to bed. But if I sound real, if my voice isn't as if my what's the word I'm looking for? My rhetoric, my
rhetoric.
my dictation isn't as buttery smooth and witty as per the usual. That's why.
I mean, I feel bad for our listeners because I feel like basically every new episode of Rajtat is the most awkward episode of Rajtat so far.
Well, I think it's because we just, at least me, I just care less and less. So I'm just like, whatever. I'm gonna say whatever I want. Jason
We're
can
just gonna
can deal
rant
with
about
it.
webcomics. Yeah, I just grew increasingly
So-
unhinged.
Oh, but an actual cool thing that's been going on is my brother randomly messaged me and my other brother. So my brother
Dang,
and me,
two brothers. Whoa.
yeah. So my brother and me, not affiliated with Mabimbam, are doing this video game music like March Madness thing. We're putting it all on a tier list. Like we're judging like 6 of them every day.
Okay.
Pitting them against each other.
Okay.
And it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. Let me hear.
So the end result is
let me-
you're gonna end up with like unanimously the best video game song of all time or something.
Yes, according to my brother and me, not affiliated with Mabimbam. So like
cool.
today it was Light Pollution from Dustforce versus the Wii Sports Resort's title theme.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Oh man. Then the next matchup. The next matchup was oh, he didn't put the title here. It was like a soldier's theme or something from Return of the Obra Dinn, which is a really good game if you haven't played it. Versus Gangplank Galleon from Super Smash Brothers, which is like the is that one? It's pretty fun.
Oh my god!
And then finally was Slider from Super Mario 64, which is like the Penguin Slide song.
Oh, I love that song.
Versus, are you ready for this? Versus
I'm
Snake
ready.
Eater from Metal Gear Solid 3. And hang on, one of the matchups from yesterday was even better. Are you ready
so
for this?
Good.
This is the exact message that my brother sent in chat. He said, "Round one, starting off with our very own Barbenheimer of a matchup. It's the hardcore remix of a timeless theme and the pastoral bliss of the Stardew Valley, and it was the main theme from Doom 2016 and Mind's Cloth from Stardew Valley."
Oh my gosh, that is so good.
It's so good. My brother is a clever man.
That's freaking brilliant.
Like when he cracks me up sometimes. When he was having a kid, he sent me this email that was like, to whom it may concern, we want to officially offer you the position of uncle, which you should be able to start the position in, I don't know, like March or February or whatever it was, pending any decisions contrary made by the third party. And that was how I found out that I was going to be an uncle. Was a legal notice of my job.
That's really funny. I don't think it's as funny as freaking Dustforce versus Wii Sports Resort, or freaking Stardew Valley and Doom.
Yeah. Have you ever heard the Dustforce soundtrack?
I've heard some of it. Like, I know Cider Time, which is a gorgeous song.
Yeah,
it's
that's a good
so
one.
Pretty.
That's a good one.
Cider Time is beautiful. It was actually really funny. So I use my music streaming service of choice is YouTube Music, and like most, I guess, like every streaming service that's trying to be as good as SoundCloud, they they do like a end of the year, here were your most listened to songs, of course, that kind of like year in review thing.
Yeah.
And last year, like for 2022, I think number one was like the song I use as my alarm. Number two was like some other bop that I freaking loved. And number three was number three or so was Cider Time from Dustforce. And when I saw that, I was so confused because I was like, I swear I only listened to that song for like a week.
Yeah. That is good.
I was like, what the heck? That wasn't, I would not have said, it was super funny. It was just like out of nowhere. It's just like Cider Time. This was like your third most listened to song. I was like, there's no way. What the frick? Like,
how many times did I listen to it in that 1 week?
It must have been a good week, dude.
Yeah.
It's like, dang, I listened to
Cider of a Time.
How
that
many
week.
times did I listen to Cider Time that week? It was really funny. It was like in my top 3.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that soundtrack. I haven't actually played the game. I don't even know what the game is. I know it has a good
it's like a
soundtrack.
platformer. It might be like a precision platformer. I don't really know.
That's what my brother said in his introduction for it.
Yeah, it's super cheap on Steam, so I've been meaning for a couple of years to just pick it up and try it, but I never have.
Yeah, I need to play it sometime. Yeah.
Well.
No. Don't say anything.
Just sit in the silence.
Literally, what did I just say?